The Talaxian warrior's skull crunched sickeningly as Gabriel smashed his rifle stock into the alien's face, sending neon blood splattering. The most feared species in the galaxy was finally learning what it felt like to lose, now that humans had arrived. Gabriel sprinted through the rubble of a once bustling Zephyrian city, his boots pounding the cracked pavement. Plasma bolts whizzed by his head and exploded into the ruins around him. He dove behind a collapsed wall as a barrage of Talaxian fire pulverized his previous position. Gabriel checked his rifle, only half a clip left. Panting, he looked around at the broken alien corpses scattered in the streets, now indistinguishable from the dead humans. His squad had been wiped out in a brutal Talaxian ambush. Those ruthless alien bastards had conquered and enslaved worlds across the galaxy for decades. No one could stop their cruel empire's expansion until humans entered the galactic scene. Gabriel gripped his rifle tightly. He was the last one left, the only human on this planet still drawing breath. He had to complete the mission and sabotage the Talaxian command center. It was humanity's last shot. Suddenly, a huge armored claw punched through the wall behind him. An 8-foot-tall Talaxian commander emerged from the hole, his eyes glowing with malice. It was Quasar, an alien warrior of unmatched viciousness and cruelty. "Pathetic human," Quasar spat in crude English. "I will crush your species like all the others. Your kind will be extinct." Gabriel stood defiantly and aimed his gun, ready to give his life for humanity's future. He wouldn't go down easy, and the Talaxians were about to learn what humans were made of. A thunderous explosion erupted nearby, the shockwave throwing both Gabriel and Quasar to the ground. Chunks of rubble rained down around them. Gabriel's ears rang from the blast. He shook his head to clear it and saw Quasar struggling to stand, momentarily stunned. Gabriel seized his chance. He raised his rifle and squeezed the trigger, sending a burst of rounds at the towering alien. The bullets tore into Quasar's armored shoulder, and he let out a bellow of pain and rage, neon blood spraying. Not waiting for a second shot, Gabriel scrambled to his feet and sprinted away, his heart pounding. Plasma bolts from Quasar's rifle exploded around him, vaporizing stone and metal. Gabriel zigged and zagged through the ruined city streets. His lungs burned as he pushed himself faster, leaping over debris and craters. After what felt like an eternity of running, pulse pounding in his ears, Gabriel spotted a cluster of heavily fortified human structures ahead, the outpost. A few battered automated turrets swiveled to track him as he approached the barricades. "Hold your fire! Friendlies coming in!" Gabriel shouted. He stumbled past the barricades and collapsed, gasping for breath. "Gabriel, thank God you made it," a woman's voice said. Dr. Eliza Hoffman crouched next to him, her face smudged with soot. "When your vitals flatlined, we thought—" Gabriel waved off her concern, pushing himself to his feet. "My squad is gone. It's just me now. Sit rep." Eliza's expression grew grim. "Not good. Zephyria is lost. The Talaxians will overwhelm our position soon." She leaned closer. "But there may be a way to turn this around. We captured a high-ranking Talaxian, Zortax. I've been analyzing his biology and tech. I think there are weaknesses we can exploit." Gabriel felt a spark of hope. "What do you need me to do?" "Zortax's transmissions could hold critical intel, but we need access to the Talaxian comms network." Eliza brought up a holomap, highlighting a structure. "We need you to infiltrate this command post and hack in." Gabriel checked his rifle. "I'll put a team together. We'll get it done." Eliza nodded. "Hurry, Quasar is coming, and he won't stop until every human on Zephyria is dead." Gabriel and his hand-picked strike team moved silently through the shadows, their captured Talaxian stealth tech rendering them nearly invisible. They approached the heavily fortified command center, weapons at the ready. Gabriel signaled his team to hold position as he scouted ahead, spotting a small gap in the patrols. "Move up," he whispered into his comm. "Let's hit them hard and fast." They breached the outer perimeter, silenced weapons dropping Talaxian guards before they could raise the alarm. Gabriel led the way inside, their boots pounding on the metal deck plates. Alarms began to blare as they were detected. "So much for stealth," Gabriel muttered, shouldering his rifle. "Weapons free." A squad of Talaxian soldiers burst into the corridor ahead, plasma rifles blazing. Gabriel and his team dove for cover, returning fire. Bullets and plasma bolts crisscrossed the hallway. A human soldier cried out as he was hit, slumping against the wall. Gabriel blind-fired around the corner, the strobing muzzle flash illuminating the snarling faces of the Talaxians as they pushed forward. His team laid down suppressing fire, trying to pin the aliens in place. "Frag out!" Gabriel shouted, lobbing a grenade. The explosion shook the corridor, alien screams mixing with the ringing in his ears. They pushed forward, stepping over twitching Talaxian corpses. The command center was just ahead. Gabriel primed a breaching charge and slapped it on the blast doors. "Breaching!" The charge detonated, blowing the doors open. Gabriel and his team stormed inside, smoke swirling around them. Talaxian technicians scrambled for cover as the humans gunned them down mercilessly. Gabriel charged to the central console, slamming a data drive into the port. His fingers flew over the alien controls, a bead of sweat dripping down his face. "Cover me!" he yelled as his team took up defensive positions. Plasma rounds slammed into the consoles around him, showering him with sparks. Finally he was in. Gabriel rapidly scanned through the decrypted Talaxian transmissions, his eyes widening. Zortax, the Talaxian they had captured, had been feeding intel to a rebel faction this whole time. The rebels were fighting to overthrow the Empire's brutal regime, and they had uncovered something big. A secret Talaxian superweapon called the Doomsday Spire, a giant orbital gun capable of cracking a planet in half. "Holy shit," Gabriel breathed. This changed everything. He punched in a code, praying the rebels were listening. A few tense seconds passed before the screen flickered and a fierce Talaxian female appeared. "Who are you? How did you get this frequency?" she demanded. "No time, I'm Gabriel with the human resistance. We need your help to take out the spire. If that thing is completed, it's game over for all of us." The female narrowed her eyes, considering. "I am Raza, leader of the rebellion. We've been fighting the Empire for years, but we can't do it alone. If you humans are willing to join us, perhaps we have a chance. Transmit your coordinates and we'll—" Suddenly an explosion rocked the command center. Gabriel whirled around to see Quasar striding through the blasted doors, his eyes burning with pure hatred. "Did you really think you could infiltrate my base undetected?" the massive alien snarled. He leveled his plasma rifle at Gabriel's head. "Now you will die, like the rest of your pathetic species." Time seemed to slow. Gabriel saw his fallen comrades scattered around the room, their lifeless eyes staring back at him. Saw Raza's face frozen on the screen, their newfound alliance hanging by a thread. He couldn't let it end like this. The Doomsday Spire had to be destroyed. Humanity needed to survive. With a roar of defiance, Gabriel lunged forward, knocking Quasar's rifle aside. The plasma bolt sizzled over his shoulder, burning through his armor. Gabriel slammed his fist into Quasar's unprotected face, feeling the alien's bones crunch. Quasar reeled back, purple blood spraying from his mangled jaw. He dropped his rifle, lashing out with a vicious backhand that caught Gabriel across the face and sent him crashing to the deck. Spots swam in Gabriel's vision as Quasar loomed over him, a jagged combat knife glinting in his claws. "I will flay the skin from your bones," Quasar hissed, stabbing downward. Gabriel rolled aside at the last second, the knife sparking off the metal deck. He kicked out, his boot connecting with the back of Quasar's knee. The alien stumbled, off balance. Gabriel leapt to his feet, snatching up a fallen plasma rifle. Quasar spun to face him, eyes widening in surprise as Gabriel pulled the trigger. A searing plasma bolt struck the alien square in the chest, burning straight through his armor and exploding out his back in a spray of molten metal and sizzling flesh. Quasar tottered, black smoke rising from the gaping hole in his chest. He took one lurching step forward before crashing to his knees and toppling forward, dead before he hit the ground. Gabriel stood over the fallen alien commander, plasma rifle held loosely at his side. His face was a mask of blood and soot. his armor scorched and dented, but in his eyes burned a fierce determination. He turned to his surviving squad mates. "Grab any intel you can and rig this place to blow. We need to get this data back to base ASAP." He glanced at Quasar's corpse, lip curling. "Leave that piece of shit to burn." Minutes later, the human strike team emerged from the shattered command center, racing back through the war-torn streets as the building exploded behind them, flames reaching into the smoke-choked sky. In the distance, the looming silhouette of the Doomsday Spire dominated the skyline, a promise of annihilation. But now, with the Talaxian rebels as unlikely allies, Gabriel felt a flicker of hope. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. They would fight to their last breath, and the Talaxian Empire was about to learn the true meaning of fear. Back at the human outpost, Gabriel laid out the intel they had gathered. The room fell silent as he revealed the existence of the Doomsday Spire. Dr. Hoffman's eyes widened in shock. "If the Talaxians complete that weapon, they'll be unstoppable," she said, her voice trembling. "We have to destroy it." Gabriel nodded grimly. "And we can't do it alone. We need the rebels' help." He turned to the view screen where Raza's fierce visage appeared. "Our forces are ready to strike the shipyard," she said, "but we need your team to infiltrate and sabotage the Spire's power core. It won't be easy." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "We'll get it done. The Talaxian Empire ends now." As Raza signed off, promising to coordinate the rebel fleet for a simultaneous attack, Gabriel assembled his strike team. Dr. Hoffman insisted on coming along, her knowledge of Talaxian systems invaluable. Gabriel hesitated, but ultimately agreed. They boarded a stolen Talaxian shuttle, its cloaking device masking their approach. As they neared the massive shipyard, Raza's rebel ships dropped out of warp, opening fire on the Talaxian defenses. Explosions bloomed in the void as the two fleets clashed. Taking advantage of the chaos, Gabriel piloted the shuttle into the shipyard's hangar bay. They emerged into a cavernous space, swarming with Talaxian soldiers and technicians. Alarms blared as the team opened fire, cutting down the aliens in a hail of bullets. They pushed deeper into the shipyard, following Dr. Hoffman's directions to the Spire's power core. Talaxian resistance intensified with every step. Plasma bolts filled the air, searing the bulkheads. Gabriel's team took casualties, but they pressed on, determined. Suddenly a horribly familiar voice echoed through the corridor. "Did you think you could sneak aboard my shipyard undetected?" Gabriel spun to see Quasar striding towards them, flanked by his elite warriors. The alien commander's eyes blazed with malice, a cruel smile twisting his face. All hell broke loose as the two sides opened fire. Gabriel's team dove for cover, returning fire desperately. Plasma bolts and bullets crisscrossed the corridor, turning it into a kill zone. Gabriel caught a glimpse of Quasar through the smoke, the alien's rifle snapping off shots with deadly precision. Gabriel rolled to a new position and raised his own rifle, drawing a bead on his nemesis. The two snipers traded fire, each trying to outmaneuver the other. Quasar's shots sparked off Gabriel's cover, forcing him to keep moving. Gabriel returned fire, his rounds pinging off Quasar's armor. As the battle raged, Dr. Hoffman crept along the corridor's edge, working her way towards the power core's control panel. Gabriel saw her reaching for the panel, and then she hesitated. In that split second, Gabriel saw the truth in her eyes, the guilt, the fear. "Eliza, no," he shouted, but it was too late. Dr. Hoffman yanked a plasma grenade from her belt and hurled it at the power core. The explosion rocked the chamber, sending Gabriel and his team sprawling. Warning klaxons blared as the core destabilized, energy surging uncontrollably. Gabriel staggered to his feet, staring at Eliza in shock. She met his gaze, tears streaking her face. "I'm sorry, Gabriel. They have my family. I had no choice." Quasar laughed, the sound cruel and mocking. "You humans are so predictable. Did you really think she was on your side?" Gabriel's mind raced, desperately seeking a solution. But there was no time. The Spire was mere minutes from coming online. Once that happened, all would be lost. He opened a comm channel to his team. "All units evacuate immediately. Get back to the shuttle and get the hell out of here." Ignoring their protests, Gabriel cut the link and turned to face Quasar. The alien raised his rifle, but Gabriel was faster. His shot caught Quasar in the shoulder, spinning him around. Gabriel lunged forward, tackling Quasar to the ground. As the two warriors grappled trading blows, the deck shuddered beneath them. The power core was going critical. Gabriel managed to pin Quasar long enough to shout at Dr. Hoffman. "Eliza, is there any way to stop the overload?" She shook her head, despair etched on her face. "No, the core is too far gone. The only way to stop the spire is to let the core detonate." Gabriel closed his eyes for a moment, accepting the inevitable. Then he slammed his fist into Quasar's face, stunning the alien. He leapt to his feet and sprinted for the control panel. "Eliza, get to the shuttle, go." She hesitated for a heartbeat torn. Then she turned and ran, disappearing into the smoke. Gabriel reached the panel, his fingers flying over the controls. He had to make sure the blast was contained, that it would take out the spire and nothing else. Molten sparks rained down around him as the core reached critical mass. He looked up to see Quasar rising to his feet, murder in his eyes. The alien raised his rifle, aiming at Gabriel's head. "For humanity," Gabriel whispered. He slammed his fist down on the control panel. A blinding white flash consumed his vision as the power core detonated. The last thing Gabriel saw was Quasar's stunned face, the alien realizing too late the trap that had been sprung. Then everything disappeared in a maelstrom of light and fire. Gabriel's fingers hovered over the detonation sequence, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the end. He took a deep breath, preparing to activate the explosives that would destroy the Doomsday Spire and end the Talaxian threat once and for all. Suddenly a plasma bolt sizzled past his head, scorching the control panel. Gabriel whirled around to see Quasar standing in the doorway, his armor shattered and his flesh seared, but his eyes still burning with hatred. "You think you've won, human?" Quasar snarled, his voice thick with pain and rage. "You've only delayed the inevitable." Gabriel raised his rifle, but Quasar was already moving, charging forward with a roar. The two warriors collided, grappling and trading blows amidst the sparking consoles and crumbling bulkheads of the collapsing shipyard. Quasar's claws raked across Gabriel's face, drawing blood. Gabriel retaliated with a vicious elbow strike to the alien's throat, crushing his windpipe. Quasar staggered back, gasping for air, but refused to fall. Gabriel pressed his advantage, raining down punches and kicks on the wounded Talaxian. Quasar fought back with the fury of a cornered beast, his blows fueled by desperation and rage. The deck shuddered beneath their feet as the power core began to overload, energy surging through the conduits. Flames licked at the edges of the room, the heat searing Gabriel's skin. With a final titanic effort, Gabriel tackled Quasar to the ground, driving his combat knife deep into the alien's chest. Quasar convulsed, dark blood bubbling from his lips. But even as the life faded from his eyes, Quasar managed a cruel, gurgling laugh. "You're too late," he rasped. "The invasion fleet is already on its way to your precious Earth. You've only bought your species a little more time to suffer." Gabriel staggered to his feet, clutching at his side where Quasar's claws had torn through his armor and into his flesh. He could feel his strength ebbing away with each passing second, his vision blurring at the edges. With faltering steps, he dragged himself back to the control panel, leaving a trail of blood in his wake. His fingers shaking, he input the final sequence and slammed his hand down on the activation key. Klaxons blared, and warning lights flashed as the power core reached critical mass. Gabriel closed his eyes, picturing the faces of his fallen comrades, of Eliza, of everyone he had fought to protect. "For Earth," he whispered. The world turned white as the explosives detonated, the power core erupting in a cataclysmic blast that consumed the shipyard, the Doomsday Spire, and everything else in a maelstrom of fire and shrapnel. On the bridge of her rebel flagship, Raza watched in awe as the massive Talaxian installation vanished in a blinding flash, the shockwave buffeting her ship and sending the Talaxian fleet into chaos. Seizing the opportunity, the human and rebel forces surged forward, tearing into the disoriented Talaxians with everything they had. Plasma beams and missiles crisscrossed the void as the two fleets clashed, the once invincible Talaxian armada crumbling under the onslaught. But even as the last Talaxian ships fled or burned, a terrible sense of foreboding settled over the human and rebel forces. Quasar's final words echoed in their minds, a chilling promise of the storm to come. In the aftermath of the battle, as the wreckage of the Talaxian shipyard burned and the Doomsday Spire's remains drifted through the void, Raza stood before the assembled human and rebel leaders, her eyes hard and determined. "The Talaxians will not stop," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "They will come for your world, and they will not rest until every last human is either dead or enslaved." She placed her hand on the shoulder of a grieving Dr. Hoffman, who clutched a hollow image of Gabriel, a single tear trickling down her cheek. "But we will face them together," Raza continued, her gaze sweeping across the room. "The Talaxian Empire has never known true fear. But they will learn. They will learn what it means to face the combined might of our two peoples, united in common cause." As the leaders nodded in grim agreement, Raza turned to face the stars, her eyes fixed on the distant gleam of Earth's sun. "Gabriel Rice gave his life so that we might have a chance to fight another day," she said softly. "We will not let his sacrifice be in vain. We will stand together, and we will make the Talaxians rue the day they ever dared to threaten our homes and our loved ones." You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.